welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I'm excited. Thank you very much for inviting me.
No worries at all. I'm excited as well. So I thought to kick us off, would you mind taking us back to your kind of earliest role, your earliest job, and to kind of give us a context of how you've gone from there to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I think it's important. We just spoke off, before I came on here, just to let people know. I'm a council house girl. So I started my life living in a tin council house in Bristol. Mum was a shop worker, Dad was a janitor. So I went to a really, really rough school in Bristol, and really my prospects were not brilliant, if I'm honest with you. And my dad died when I was 14, so I think that sort of kicked a thing in me that meant I had to do whatever it was I was going to do. There was no one else going to do it for me, so I didn't have anyone there to support me. So from quite an early age, I sort of set myself a goal that I wanted to achieve something and do something. So I think it was really about recognition. I think, I felt like we were nobody, we were quite poor. So I put myself through uni. I worked 4 jobs in hotels. So I did hotel management qualification and worked in various hotels in Bournemouth doing bar work, cleaning, you name it. I bought myself a moped and I'd be at 6 o'clock in the morning off to do the breakfast shift. And so that was my first hotel experience. And from there, when I graduated, I really luckily got offered 4 jobs. The BBC, I think I got offered a job on a graduate programme with what was then Ladbroke, but Hilton Hotels, and one with a catering company. And I was meant to start a job with this company called ARA Catering. And something stopped me at the last minute and I just didn't go. And I actually took the job with Hilton, so which then followed a year on property at the Basingstoke Hilton, which was a nightmare, and I hated it. But it did teach me everything there is to do with hotels. So, I learned about managing people, about dealing with difficult customers, about people stealing things, about hospitality, about making people feel good, etc. So it was a real baptism of fire, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. But it gave me a grounding. And then my boss at the hotel actually came to me and said, we've got no business on the weekends, it's empty because it's Basingstoke, so there was no corporate business then. He said, do something to fill us. So I went off and came up with the concept of a wedding fair and put together this sort of 2-day program with hairdressers and cake make. I mean, I had no experience, I had no idea what I was doing, I just did it. Put a thing in the local paper because that was how you promoted things then. And 2,500 people turned up over that weekend, and we booked 27 weddings. And I don't think he could quite believe it because that was a lot of money. It was worth a lot of money. I mean, behind the scenes, it was a nightmare. It was like one of those sort of swans on a lake, sort of pedaling, and you could see it all looking calm, but it wasn't. And that was my first taste of events. And then from there, I went on to go on the graduate training scheme with Hilton and went into sales, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in sales and marketing. And I was late to the programme because obviously I'd done this year, but they gave me an opportunity, which is another story. But and then I worked for Hilton for a number of years as their sort of troubleshooter in sales, opening hotels. So I'd be sent anywhere that they were opening a new property, and my job was to fill it. Till eventually I then got my first break and set up my first agency. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's an incredible story, and I can only imagine what those couple of days would have been like during that wedding fair, running behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm sure people not turning up and
oh my god. Yeah. I've actually had a wedding at a hotel arrive that actually I didn't have actually in the diary. So which
how did that go?
We worked something out, but it was not. It wasn't exactly the best day of my life. But but I think that's in events. That's what you do. You manage crisis sometimes, and you have to. You prepare for the worst, don't you? Sometimes, so yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think going back, it's so interesting to hear of that kind of those foundational couple of years, and picking up on, I guess, those first few roles in the hospitality and service industry. How important do you think it is for younger people to, at some point, work in hospitality or service on that journey?
It's something I've encouraged with my own children. I've got 2 children, and I've made them, both of them, go and work in either restaurants or bars, doing that, because actually you get to deal with Joe Public. You experience the best and the worst of people. You learn how to manage situations. So I think personally, for young people coming into events, it's a really good thing to go and work in whether it's a restaurant, hotel, whatever, it doesn't matter, because you get a feel for, some of the things you might have to deal with. Obviously, more complex as you get onto events, but it's definitely a good experience to be able to do that. And it's graft, it's not easy. Hospitality is hard work, and I've built my career on graft. Nothing particularly has been easy, but I don't mind that. It feels good to do a good job, work hard, and deliver, and see the results.
I couldn't agree more on it.
Yeah.
Especially as you say, the hospitality and service, working in a bar or a restaurant, there's so many learnings around.
Yeah.
Teamwork, accountability, all of those bits. And
absolutely.
It's so easy. If you sit in a restaurant, sadly often a fancy restaurant, it's very easy to see the people that haven't worked in hospitality based on how they're interacting with.
Yeah, hygiene, all sorts of things. It's, it's not just hygiene, it's also how people interact with each other, how they interact with you, and dealing with people. One of the biggest challenges in any career, whether it's your client or your staff, is actually leading and managing people, because that's the hard bit, getting them to do what you need them to do and be happy and love what they do, and emulate your values as well. That's really important.
Yeah, exactly. I can't agree more. It's this, we hear the word culture thrown about constantly. It's on every agency website, and people almost speak as if it's something that's new. It's not new. It's always existed. It's just that understanding of people, and you just say having the work that's enjoyable, but a real commitment to values and graft within that. But then the graft, in my opinion, becomes not easy. Well, I'd say maybe easier, because there is that commitment to the core values as part of a team.
I really didn't understand what values were until I launched my business as Zybrant, because before that we were called something else. So Zybrant was only created in 2005. We have been operating since 1991 as IBR, which was a venue finding agency, and then we bought all these different companies. McGarvey Russell, Peter Rand's business, we'd set up a business. Chris Parnham came in with a business called Illico, which was a separate brand, and we had all these brands within our business, and actually it was a bit of a mess. So I think you have to go through a bit of a learning curve on values and what a brand is before you actually really understand the value of creating a good brand. And in 2005, after buying all those companies, we were, over 200 people strong in our agency, and but all the cultures were different. We had like 5 different cultures, all doing different things. So I brought someone in to help me, actually, myself and the other directors, and we spent 6 months really observing, working out what people thought about the business, what our clients thought, and then this company made recommendations to us about what we needed to do, which was to create a new brand and to actually create values that we all really believed in. So for 6 months before we launched our brand, we carried our values around in our pockets, and we would actually, as directors, we would red card each other if we weren't living the values. And then when we launched, we had on every screensaver, every morning when people open their computer, the Zybrant values, and we also launched a recognition scheme at the same time. So if someone was demonstrating the values, you could reward them. You were given vouchers to be able to reward your colleagues every month. And then at the end of the year, we had a Mr. or Mrs. Zybrant who had demonstrated the values, and they got $5,000. Plus, I took the top 12 people that had delivered the values on a once-in-a-lifetime trip that I personally organised. So the days of Zybrant were incredible, and I remember doing events where we showered money from the ceiling on Mr. or Mrs. Zybrant, And that brand was only actually launched 2 years before we sold it. So that was the power of that brand. I actually launched it in 2005, and in 2007, Motivcom came along and offered us 15.9 million for the business.
Wow, at 2 years old.
Well, it wasn't 2 years old. Obviously, we've been operating for a long time. We brought the brand together, and I've got to recognise people like Chris Parnham and the other directors, Helen McCabe and stuff. There are a lot of good people there who all worked. It wasn't just me. We all worked together to create that. Had our problems, obviously, but 2 years, and we came out with that, with that sale, which was brilliant.
Amazing. So would you put culture as potentially the most important thing that contributed to that valuation?
Well, I think I think brand. When you create a brand, I think that it's the bedrock for any business. And if the culture is right, if the culture brings the people with you, then automatically you get success. So obviously you've got to see the figures. I mean, we were doing particularly well financially. We obviously had a lot of big clients, and but it all went together. So as the brand was growing and our reputation was growing, people wanted to work with us creatively. We were known as a full service creative agency. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Again, just going back to one of the other points you mentioned there, the kind of the earliest stage of your career around the sales experience.
Yeah.
And it's something that on this podcast,
Yeah.
time and time again, when we talk through people that have had particularly distinguished careers as yourself, that sales, there's often some form of aspect of sales. Again, how important do you feel like having that exposure to the world of sales has been on your journey?
Oh, fundamental. Not just sales though, marketing too. Because for me, I think the one thing that I have done, probably subconsciously without even realising, is built my own brand. So when I first started in hotels and stuff, I was always doing press releases and putting myself out there to speak at things, even when I wasn't that confident of doing that sort of thing. I was putting myself out there to be, someone that was knowledgeable about things. I set myself a task when I started the venue finding agency to know every venue that there was in the UK. To know, so if someone came to me and said, "What do you think about this?" I go, "Yeah, I've been there, I've known it." I literally was consuming knowledge. So I think it's the sales side of things is really important, but I think sales is a bit of a dirty word.
Yes, that's almost why I asked. It's almost in the devil's advocate of.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Over the years, I've come to realise that actually, it's not about selling something to someone. It's about actually building a relationship with someone. You might think you're meeting someone and they don't have any value to you. And I always say to people, don't ever assume that person is what they're at face value. Because actually, very often you'll meet someone, and a year later or 2 years later, something will happen and you'll have a deal on the table. But because you've maybe put in a bit of investment in them and you've had the time for them, that person will value your opinion and your relationship. And that's a really key thing for me. I try to judge everyone on, not on the first meeting, not on, the face value, on an ongoing relationship. And then the second thing, obviously, to do with relationships and stuff is, what you put in is what you get out. If you respond to people and follow up and keep in touch, it's a bit like a friendship. If you don't keep in touch with your friends, they're going to fade away. If you keep in touch with them and you're, without any pressure, you're there, then very often people will be respectful and responsive to you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And I guess off the back of that, what kind of tangible advice would you give to young people that are looking to get into the events industry and seeing it as, I guess it can be quite daunting from the outside. There's lots of exciting stuff that can be achieved. But what kind of advice would you give to younger people looking to get
Okay, so I'd say you've got to put an effort in. If you're looking for help and advice, you need to make that happen. No one's going to do it for you. So you have to have some self-initiative. I'd say look at things like building your LinkedIn profile and, sending messages to people, asking them for advice or support, or, find people that you admire and, you know, send them a message saying, oh, you know, I've seen your career, it looks wonderful, would you have 5 minutes for a coffee with me at some point? So there's no point in not asking. You can always ask for help. I think so. That's number one. So start to build your network. Go to things, okay? Go and learn. If you can get to Confex or IMEX or any of the meeting show, any of the industry things, try and get along to those things and meet people, and set an objective each time you go of meeting at least 3 people and linking in with them. So you can say, I'm a student, I'm just starting out, I'm not very confident. You know, be honest, be really, be authentic. And most people, you might get some, you know, people who don't want to talk to you, but so what? Just next. So say that's another good thing to do. And then obviously, running one of the industry's premier mentoring program, I say if you can, get a mentor. You know, either there's lots of programs on the market now. Apply. You know, Google what's available. Apply to be on a mentoring program. And yeah, you know, that's another great route into meeting people and being connected.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just going back to your first point around attending as much as possible and going to speak to people, I think it's so important. It's so nice. Last year, we've been exhibiting at Confex for a couple of years, but last year, seeing lots of students coming up to us and saying exactly that. I'm a student, I'm just kind of looking to the industry, I want to have a chat, and I just want to say as much as possible to anyone listening, just go for it. Like,
absolutely.
99.9% of people will be lovely. I think, I imagine, I hope that most people will just entertain a chat, and you're absolutely, you know, I'm worried that people maybe think I'm not welcome there. That is the opportunity for everyone to go.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is if someone hasn't got the time for you, then fine, just move on next. You know, don't waste your time. But like you said, even if you get a 50% hit on who you talk to, great, that's great.
Exactly. And there's lots of, you know, great workshops that you can even just, if it's your first time, go and sit at the back with a pad and pen and get involved. But yeah, as you say, speaking to as many people as definitely.
Yeah, and read the industry press. I mean, obviously there's some, you know, M&IT, CNIT, conference news. There's some great industry work going on there. You know, read that. Read that. Look at what's happening in there, and also sign up to, you know, make sure you're following Fast Forward 15. You're following M&IT. You're following Event Profs. You know, do you know what I mean? Make sure you're following those things, because you might just get a nugget of great information that you can use.
100%. I think that's a nice segue into mentorship and Fast Forward 15. So mentorship, again, I couldn't be more passionate about almost, well, I think exclusively every single person we've had on this podcast have spoken about brilliant mentors that they've had on their journey. It does seem to be a real key, that sounding board to help elevate at every single level of a journey throughout a career. So it'd be great to hear a little bit more around what is Fast Forward 15.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think that I started this snowball because it was 2013-14 when I first came up with the idea of doing something, in that I'd sold my business for the second time to BCD Meetings and Events. Nigel Cooper and I had bought it back from the company we sold it to in 2007, and then bought it back and sold it to BCD. And I was thinking, what am I going to do? And I'm not the sort of person to sit at home and twiddle their thumbs. And I also realised that a huge percentage of our clients were women, and a huge proportion of our workforce were women. And we just won the Times Top Company for Women to Work For in 2012, which was wonderful because we were only a small company on that list. I think the top 50 companies, and we were in that top 50. And I was very conscious as a woman that I'd go to things, and at that point there were still tables of just men that were committees of things, and you know, and I love guys, but it was like 50 plus white males, and I was like, guys, come on, you need a different viewpoint. And then I went to an event in, I think, prior to that, again, these things were triggering me. I went to an event, the Event 100, and out of the 100, about 82% were men. And bearing in mind our industry is 75% women, I was thinking, how in the hell can this be? And what it is a lot of women don't get to those top level positions. And also a lot of women are not confident enough to put themselves forward. So that was where I came up with this idea of putting together a free mentoring program for women in events and hospitality that would last a year, and that was a governed program. So it's not just a case of throwing two people together and, you know, letting them get on with it. It's a case of they go through a process of, you know, psychometric testing, learning about each other, goal setting, then it's education, things like how to pitch yourself, you know, what do you want out of your life. It's a really cathartic process. They get to work together as a cohort to put a charity event on, or a fundraising event. And then during that process, we help them to enter awards. We help them to build their profile. So by the end of the year, we hope that they will be a changed person, more positive, more confident. And it can be a tiny change. It doesn't matter how big or small. You don't have to want to be the CEO of a company. You can just want maybe a better promotion or a bit more money, or it can be anything. It can be just the fact you want to be able to stand up at the next meeting you have and put your point of view over. But it can be you want to be an entrepreneur and have your own business. So that is the premise of what Fast Forward 15 is. And at the moment we're open for applications for the 2025-26 program, which starts in May. Applications close, I think, 7th of March. So it's on our website that they can apply. And it's a great process anyway, because even if you don't get a place, we give you a speed mentoring session. We help you along your way. We help you through the process of thinking about your goals. So it's worth applying, even if you don't get onto the final 15. But why not have a go? That's what I say. So
100% agree. Yeah. And all of the information around how to sign up and everything will be below this video as well. So
yeah, lovely. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, but you know, for me, it's one thing that I really promote on this program is you're in a safe space, whatever your situation is, however confident or not confident you are, we're there to help you. So you don't need to be worried. Nothing nasty is going to happen. You're going to be supported and helped. And, you know, we just want people that are going to be committed. We don't want people that are going to flake out halfway through. We want people that are going to be committed. And I always say to the mentees at the beginning of the program, what you put in is what you get out.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I guess what would you say to people that might be watching this and then are on the fence a little bit about going forward? There's a couple of people that I've spoken to that have said, I'm a bit nervous about taking something like this on, or am I too junior, or am I too senior, or what would you say to those?
Well, first of all, the program's open to anybody that's in the events and hospitality industry. So it doesn't matter whether you're 20 and just starting out, or you're 55 and thinking, I'm stuck, what in the hell am I going to do? So it doesn't matter. So I think, don't worry about that. You know, who cares? Just do it. And I think it's like anything in life. I put on my poster, this year's graduation, I came up with this saying, every journey starts with a single step. You can either sit back and not take that step, or you can put your foot forward and just take one step. And as I said, we're a safe space. Whatever happens, you'll get something out of it. It's a positive experience, and you'll meet some lovely people, you know. So,
love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just jumping back to one of the bits that I was keen to ask you around, you mentioned there around you sold your business,
yeah,
and then you bought it back,
yes, and
then you sold it again,
yes.
I'd love for you to talk me through that.
Okay, so what happened in 2007, 2 years after we'd rebranded to Zybrant, Motivcom, which was another big agency in the business who were really up and coming, and actually they've been around for a long time. They were Page and Moy, which was a big incentive house, and their business was primarily employee benefits, but they had a big events division and a lot of great people that still work at BCD now that came through the Zybrant sort of stable. So we sold it to them, and at the time, I had two youngish kids, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I think when I sold it I thought, okay, that'll be it, you know, they'll have me out in 2 years. But Nigel Cooper came in, he was one of the directors of Motivcom. He came in as the chairman of our company, and I think he quickly realised that I was the driving sales force. I was the person that had driven the sales structure, marketing structure. And so we worked really closely together and kept building the business. So over the next, I think, how many years were we? About 6-7 years. We worked very closely together. We won some incredible accounts. I mean, we bought some more. I think we bought another company along the way, and we just got. There was a catalyst for this. Sorry, I forgot about this. So basically, Motivcom was a AIM listed company, so still privately owned, but on the AIM listing, and they were approached by Sodexo. So they were selling to Sodexo. So, and at that time, Sodexo mainly wanted the employee benefits side of the business at Motivcom. So there was an opportunity for us to buy back the Zybrant part of the business, which Nigel drove that purchase and then brought me back in later to buy shares back in back in the business. So that's what we did. We sort of made an agreement between ourselves that we would make a certain amount of money, and then over and above that, we would pay it all back to the staff. So literally, once we'd hit our target of what we wanted to make, everything then went back to the staff. So we probably had 2 years where the staff were getting super bonuses. We were doing these phenomenal events. We were flying, we flew people out to New York and all the rest of it on incentive trips in our own team. So there was sort of like a golden era. I think if you spoke to Zybrant people that were there during that period, it was just like, what the hell was going on? It was just, sometimes I'd wake up and go, what's happening? I mean, I remember Nigel was so pleased at one point with me. He said, right, Faye, where do you want to go? Anywhere in the world. I said, well, I've never been to India. So he flew me and 4 of the team that I wanted to come with me to Delhi. The Taj CEO was waiting on the tarmac with a private plane, who then flew us up to Jaipur, where we were met by a cavalcade of camels, elephants, and a sari maker to make us saris and outfits. We then had dinner with the King of Jaipur, followed by a balloon ride over the Red Palace, elephant polo, and then a private viewing of the Taj Mahal, and lunch at a luxury hotel there before flying.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
I think even more so from starting off the beginning of our conversation with the 4 jobs to go through uni to So that is just So at that point, so Nigel and I worked really closely together, and he had a different skill set to me, but we complemented each other. So and then of course we did a few years of that once we bought the business back from Motivcom, and then BCD came along and made us an offer, and it was the right time. I mean, I've been in the business for sort of 25 plus years. I thought, okay, and I also was building Fast Forward 15 alongside that. So Fast Forward 15 was my own company alongside that, not for profit. Doesn't make money. It's not there to make money. It was my way of doing something good, but also giving me a vehicle to keep my brand going. 100%. So incredible. And you mentioned, so obviously you focused on Fast Forward 15, but you mentioned earlier before we started there are also some other initiatives and projects you're working on. So this year, we launched Fast Forward 15 in 2014, and then the first year was 2015, where we did the first group. So this is officially the 10th. Last year and this year have been the 10th year of the program. So I sort of thought to myself, well, I've done the same thing for a long time. We've changed it and tweaked it, but why not do something a bit new? So there's 2 things that are happening this year. One is the University Challenge, which is a scheme I've created, which I'm keeping my fingers crossed works, where teams from universities across the UK can put in an entry to create an event which will be supporting meeting needs, and they'll be mentored by a Fast Forward 15 trained mentor, with the concept for them to give them some practical first-hand knowledge of what you do, how do you run an event with no budget or minimal budget, and make some money and actually put it back into a charity. So that's the idea behind that. So that's kicking off now as we speak. That we're still receiving applications.
First year, don't know how many we'll get. I think, we'll see what the students do. And then at Confex, we're going to be doing a speed mentoring thing for them, and also talking to some of the teams that have got an entry in and stuff. So I think first year might be quite small. I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 teams, but we'll see how it goes. And hopefully it'll get bigger and more successful, might open it up globally. So that's quite exciting. And then the second thing is, every year I challenge the mentees that are on the programme to do a fundraiser, because we rely on sponsors and the funds we get from that to help us in that we do need money to run the programme, pay all the things you have to pay for. So they this year have launched the first ever Fast Forward 15 Mentoring Awards. So this industry gives an awful lot back. I don't know if people always appreciate people put their time and effort in for free. Yeah. And therefore we want to recognise all those people out there who are companies that are doing mentoring programs, people that are giving their time back, organisations that are, offering, like NAWI, and do you know what I mean? There's loads and loads of organisations out there in our sector. So we want to recognise the individuals, the companies, the agencies, the people that are really valuing mentorship within their organisation. And as the first company or the first person to maybe launch mentoring in the events industry way back when in 2013-14, I think it's really great that we've been able to do that, and if it's successful, we'll obviously make this an annual thing and build on it.
Incredible. Lots of exciting stuff going on. I can't wait to see all of that unravel. So we've just got time for one final question, and that is around, what would you like to see change in the industry? So I think it's really interesting to hear kind of where your initial thinking for Fast Forward 15 came from, and I saw that stat around that you mentioned, the 75%. I guess that was now 10 years ago. As you look at the kind of the industry now and kind of where we're going, what would you like to see change and happen differently?
Okay, so I think it's like anything. I think there are lots of really well-meaning people. There are lots of organisations. There are lots of associations. There are lots of not-for-profits and charities and organisations that are doing things. I think people need to work better together. Make use of the collaborative rather than just going down their own track and competing almost. But come together and actually work together to create good outcomes. And who knows what can happen from that. And also, I think there are a lot of people who talk about things, but I think it's all about the action. So I think well and good talking about stuff, try and make things happen as an industry, rather than just the hot air of it sometimes. Yeah. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I think it's good to discuss and debate things, but I think if you see an issue, then rather than maybe start something new, go to the people that are already working on it, or creating solutions, and try and work with them or support them. I welcome people to come and help me at Fast Forward 15 in my quest for equity and equality, and supporting people in our industry. So if people want to help, I'm open for business.
Fantastic, amazing. Well, I think that's a perfect way to wrap up. Thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.
It's been a real
pleasure. Thank you, Tom. It's really kind of you.